What is going on, guys? And welcome to the Black Dow. And this is a very interesting story, but it's going to be a very great learning opportunity for a lot of people. And what I'm going to talk about today is the recent cryptocurrency hack of the Colonial Pipeline. I think it'll give you a little bit of insight with how media can kind of orchestrate things, or how government and media can kind of manipulate information for the masses. Now, my background is actually in media specifically, so more local media. So, talking with reporters, writing talking points and those types of things. So I am familiar with how this process works, not necessarily at a national level personally, but I still know how national politics works with the media to a certain extent. And this is a perfect example that can give you some insight with how these things operate, and how a reporter who is their job to kind of do these things doesn't even do their basic due diligence and put some pressure to answer, I think, extremely important questions. So just jumping right into it, I want to, go ahead and share really quick an article with you guys. A couple of articles, actually. So you'll see here on CNN, there is CNN recovers millions in cryptocurrency paid to Colonial Pipeline ransomware attackers. I went ahead and read the article. And then I also have another one here from NPR. Same idea about how they got the funds back from the hackers. And then there's also a live stream, which I'll get to in a second. So the first thing is that I read the article about the ransomware attack. And it talks a little bit about how the FBI, they were able to go in and capture some of the funds of the hackers, that the hackers actually hacked from the pipeline, because the pipeline folks actually paid the ransom, which a lot of different institutions and government entities always discourage from, because it will actually encourage future people to actually engage in these types of hacks, because there's a monetary interest involved. Even though they did that, the government is saying that they actually stepped in and they were able to capture some of those funds for the individuals. Now, for us, we're thinking, okay, how did they actually capture these funds? And, what was the process in that? And those are all great questions. And so for me, what I would do is I would actually go in and ask those questions if I was, someone who was involved with this process. And so if you look here, it talks about, the Justice Department sees this amount of Bitcoin. Colonial Pipeline CEO Joseph Blunt told the Wall Street Journal that the company complied with the $4.4 million ransom demand. So you see here that it's kind of like what I've been telling you guys about. Now, the big kicker for me comes in this article right here. And the basic questions that I think that people should be asking, they're not asking with these articles. And I'm going to go ahead and find it right here. It says, let's see here. So here I think this is it. Court documents released in the Colonial Pipeline case say the FBI got in by using the encryption key linked to the Bitcoin account to which the ransom money was delivered. However, officials have not disclosed how they got the key. So that's the biggest part right there. How did the officials get the key? Remember, we talk about not your Bitcoin, not your key, not your Bitcoin. If you have somebody who's doing a sophisticated hack, where are they storing their keys at? Now, in this case, was it on an actual exchange? Was it on Coinbase? Was it on Kraken? If those are the cases, I have so many other questions with, is that really what we're supposed to believe, that they actually did this? Or, and this is what my theory is actually, is that because I don't really trust the government or media, especially when they do reporting where they only report one side and they don't get other perspectives on this, is that did the government or did these government institutions have access to those keys the entire time? Were they actually government keys? Because let me give you an example here. Usually when you have instances like this where there's a national emergency or national security interest, it's an opportunity for the government entity to get more power and more control. So in this case, if we have an attack on an American company, potentially we might see the government get more power and more funding to fight these types of things. Now, what I recently heard is that they're going to be labeling this type of thing a terrorist activity, right? If you have a cryptocurrency attacks are going to be labeled terrorist activity. Now, what does that entail exactly? I'm not 100% sure exactly the level of of what it means for the laws, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to give them more tactical ways to combat cryptocurrency and, activity. Now that they label it a terrorist activity. And then in turn of that is that because of this hack, they're going to be able to perpetuate this and gain the momentum of the public to back it. And how do I know that that's the case right here? This is what I was going to show you guys right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys this right here. Already, I want to show you guys there is a Senate hearing with the Colonial Pipeline CEO. Now, why is this important? They're doing a hearing because they want to find out more information about how the pipeline happened. You know, senators and congressmen are going to be asking them questions. And ultimately, this is how they lead to building up the momentum and passing laws that are going to then change the way that these kind of things operate. And I was watching it a little bit, it's just all political theater. The guy's asking questions that everybody already knows. He's asking simple questions for the CEO to answer. It's things like, oh, you know, we did the best we could, and thank goodness for our government to come in and help us with this case. It's all political theater. But here's the main thing. If you can see the process, I want you guys to see the process with how these things are done. We had the first thing with the Colonial Pipeline hack. We don't know how they got the keys. And, you know, I'm thinking that if they had the keys in the beginning, then they already knew that this was going to happen if they didn't do it themselves. And now we have a Senate hearing, which is going to potentially bring forth more laws, and we don't know how those laws are going to affect it. Now, for me as a small YouTube channel, I can only say a certain amount. But think about this. All the different major outlets, which are going to be sharing this information with all the masses of people, such as CNN, are going to be perpetuating this story and this narrative to the masses. So what I'm actually concerned with what is going to be the outcome of this narrative. We don't know where this private keys came from. We don't know how they got access to the Bitcoin. I mean, any sophisticated person who's going to be doing something like this, after they would get the Bitcoin and access to the private keys, they would just wash the money with something like Monero or Tornado Cash. And that's the part where I don't understand how the government would actually get the keys from there. And in the article I want to show you guys right here is they said, I think I might have already said this, but let's see here. The private key is from a technology perspective, the thing that made it possible to seize the fund, Doss said. She added that cyber attackers will go to great lengths to guard any information that could lead someone to associating the keys with an individual organization. They're going to really try to cover their tracks. One possibility is that the FBI was tipped off. No, that's not it. Let's see here. Maybe it was earlier up here. Well, what I wanted to say is that in this article, it said it talked about the private keys, and it said that they didn't want to disclose how they got access to the private keys, and that was a big component where a red flag kind of went off in my head. So ultimately, that's the story that I wanted to tell you guys. Just be very cautious with this kind of stuff, and you can kind of see the slippery slope. There was a hack that happened. We don't know who did the hack. It's just a random kind of a boogeyman. We know that the government has access to the private keys. After they have access to the private keys, they miraculously recover some of the Bitcoin. After they recover some of the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency kind of ransomware situation is turned into a terrorist activity. After it's turned into a terrorist activity, the media reports all these stories, and now we're having hearings at the national level on this specific case. And what do you think is going to happen next? We're going to get laws passed. And what are those laws going to look like? I have no idea, but I'm sure it's not going to be in the favor of cryptocurrency. I want to hear what you guys have to say about my theory. Am I far off? Do I have a tinfoil hat on? Does it make sense at all? Please let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you guys here again real soon.